It is Dave, and I hope everyone's having a good day today. Yeah, welcome back. I hope you are enjoying some of this content I'm putting out there. I got my super adorable kitty, Taven, over here sleeping. He looks very comfortable, and I'm very happy about that. I've been really getting into this book again, The Mountain Is You, by Brianna Weise. Bless her heart, I'm slaughtering it every week. But the whole goal of her book is transforming self-sabotage into self-mastery, meaning taking a lot of these behaviors that we've grown up with, that we've been conditioned by, and we don't even realize that we still act out of them, and that still control and dominate a lot of our behaviors with others, whether that's in our relationships or just our daily interactions, but also within our own self, like that inner dialogue, that inner the thought process that we use against ourselves sometimes. Our mind should be, I love the quote, the mind is a great servant but a horrible master. And I think about a lot of these self-sabotaging behaviors that have put me into a lot of positions that were unnecessary, a lot of stress, a lot of worry, a lot of fear. But yeah, it's all refocusing and changing our perspective around our thinking. Yeah, so that's what I want to do with this. I want to explore a little more of these triggers. The triggers are actually our roadmaps to getting out of a lot of these behaviors, to getting beyond and to growing, healing a lot of the wounds. So triggers meaning anything that sets you off, that makes you feel uncomfortable or makes you stop or elicits a reaction, a negative reaction within you. So the first few I talked about were anger and like sadness and what that looks like and how that can help us actually give us a roadmap to how we're feeling, our desires, what we really want out of life, what we're really looking for, what really aligns with who we are and what we want to be. Today, we're going to talk about some heavy hitters, and that is guilt, shame, and jealousy. And actually, I think jealousy is the lightest of the three. So I am really excited to get into this. Let's go right in jump right in with guilt. This is a multifaceted trigger for me because there's a lot of, there's like lots of levels of guilt, right? There's the guilt we tell like little kids, did you take the cookie? And we see the TikTok videos where there's like 3 dogs lined up and one got in the trash. And like guilt serves its purpose in that sense for like instruction. But then when you take it to another level, like with religious organizations or like the institutions like Catholicism and just Christianity in general, or even Islam, a lot of these religions are used to control, to force control, and that's through moral behavior. So guilt on that kind of a level, it is a social construct in that sense where it is used to suppress and to keep people in line, make good citizens. And when you internalize that on a level, it changes your world dynamic. And that's what I kind of want to talk about first is guilt tends to affect us more for what we didn't do than what we did do. So where it's used as a social control, and like, we should feel shame about murdering our neighbor, you know what I mean? Or stealing from Walmart. It serves its purpose there. But I found with myself, and this is probably my background of growing up in the church, of my family of origin, where guilt was used like a weapon, right? I am harder on myself. I feel more guilt towards myself and what I don't feel I'm accomplishing a lot of the time. And I'm curious if that resonates with a lot of you, like how that feels for others. I put that guilt, that cycle, that thought cycle on myself, and I use it to actually like stunt myself, sabotage my growth in a lot of ways. Like I'm not measuring up to this invisible standard, or I'm holding myself to an unattainable goal that it was impossible to reach in the beginning, but then I feel guilty about it, which starts a cycle, and it keeps me in that mindset of lack, of not achieving, not seeing my worth, not seeing my value, not seeing what I'm actually accomplishing. So I want to talk some of these points in her chapter right here. Guilt requires us to look deeply at the behaviors we feel badly about, as well as what we may have done that was not in our best interest. If we have treated others unfairly, we must be able to admit and apologize and correct the behavior. However, if the feeling of guilt is more generalized and not specifically relating to any one incident, we need to look closely at who or what made us feel that way when we were wrong or inconveniencing others. There's a lot right here. Obviously, we know when we've wronged someone. And, well, I mean, I would say healthy mindseted people. Like when you hurt someone, you usually feel remorse. You feel guilt for doing that. I would say the majority, sociopaths, different level. That's why we have sociopaths. Like, you know what I mean? The weird kid who's mean to animals down the street. They're different for a reason and you stay away from them. But the average person is going to feel bad when they hurt someone else. But when it's more generalized, if we don't have that obvious example, then this is exactly what I was trying to say earlier. When I feel guilt for nothing apparent, then I have to start looking, where is that coming from? Where did this mindset, this thinking process start? And again, I would always say distill it. When you distill it down, when you chunk it down, it's usually our families of origin or some, people in our life or incidents that made us feel ashamed or are wrong. For me, again, it was the church. It was, you're born a sinner and that colors your world. It's a different existence. So you start to see things in yourself, you internalize that on another level. So guilt, I think, is an emotion that we often carry from childhood. It's definitely something that's projected onto us through us again, or the behaviors or learned behaviors of our parents, those people that are around us. But I think there is a lot of gold in this trigger, meaning the moment we can start unlocking where our guilt comes from, what we feel guilty about, it's going to give us a freedom to realize that it gives us the ability to love ourselves, to accept ourselves on another level, is what I'm trying to get at. Guilt for me reveals a self-betrayal. I set up a lot of these unattainable standards or expectations for myself that create a cycle for me. And it's that perfectionism piece, which we can talk about later too. I think a lot of us consider ourselves perfectionists. And we wear it as a badge at first. Like, we get things done, we do things well, and we do it right. You know what I mean? The first time. But that perfectionism also is kind of insidious because it's a form of control. And it's our way, often a mechanism to keep control and order in our lives because we come from chaos, especially from childhood. A lot of families of origin are very chaotic. So this need to control and to maintain things within set parameters, within something manageable, which is the cosmic joke, because nothing is. All life is change, and everything is going to change. So we really can't control everything all the time. And trying to will just kill us quicker. But for me, the guilt trigger is really revealing self-betrayal, where I feel I've let myself down. And that cycle I'm trying to get at is when I set these unattainable standards for myself, because there is no perfection, there's only the best I can do right now where I'm at. When I set these impossible standards and then I don't obtain that goal or I don't meet that standard, I let myself down, which reinforces the guilt and shame that I feel about not completing or not performing or not, do you hear it? Not performing or meeting the expectation, whether that's mine, whether that's my parents, whether that's, some institution, like you can go on and on. But that piece of this cycle that keeps going around, I was stuck in that for years. So much of my self-worth, I would be triggered and feel guilty and feel shameful about not being able to do the best, or at least the best I thought I could. When I realized I was performing so much better than I was expected, you know what I mean, in most situations. But I was pushing myself and I never saw that amazing effort. I never saw the good in a lot of what I did. I only saw the lack. And so that mindset, that perspective of just not seeing the real picture, you know what I mean? Whether that's how I'm showing up in a relationship or the work I'm producing at school or at work, the quality of my relationships with my friends. And there's just so many of these things that this self-sabotaging voice would steal. And all because I felt guilty needlessly because I only focused on the negative aspects rather than where I was showing up. And that negative mindset feeds itself, and it gets worse the more you leave it unchecked. So that's where I think a lot of this mindfulness exploration really helped me come back to myself, to become the observer. Eckhart Tolle in The Power of Now talks about there's the mind, there's the voice in the mind, and we associate it, that's us, that's our voice, that's, it's my mind, it's me. But then stepping back from that while you're hearing these, becoming aware of the thoughts and the thought patterns, a lot of times you're going to find out there are two voices almost in your head. There are almost two people. You can observe, where did that thought come from? Why am I being so hard on myself? I feel this way. Why? Because the facts say one thing, I performed well, I did something amazing, I showed up when I should have for this person, but then why do I feel the way I did, and why does that voice say I should be doing more? I haven't done enough. Becoming an observer, and we get to this point a lot of times through meditation, through sitting in silence, through contemplation. So I can't stress that enough. Meditation will unlock treasure troves of just awesome growth and healing in just sitting and just being with yourself, the good and the bad, just making space for it. I can't stress that enough. So yes, that was my meditation plug for today. The second trigger I want to talk about is embarrassment. And she talks about embarrassment instead of shame right out the bat, because embarrassment is the first part, the precursor. It's how you know when it's how you feel when you did not behave it in a way that you feel proud of, like, you missed the mark. There's the embarrassment of, like, say you sneeze and like you get snot all over yourself and people are watching. That's one thing, that's different. But there's another when, like, you should have showed up for someone and you didn't, and you made a choice and it cost you, and it cost the friend, or you knew better, by taking a route, making a choice or choosing a certain action that had consequences that were going to hurt someone else. Those kind of things. There's an embarrassment level, but then the darker underbelly, the shadow side of that is shame. And I think that's where, again, coming from a religious culture, but sometimes our parents weaponize shame against us. And shame happens when we internalize it, when it becomes a part of our identity and we start seeing ourselves through that lens of not enough, of being a failure. There's such a dark, insidious nature to this, because this is what starts people down really intensely dark paths. When we don't see ourselves as beautiful, as enough, in essence, then we start to self-destruct. We start to chip away at that core of who we are. You know what I mean? We really start to transform how we feel about ourselves. We start to diminish our value and our worth. Even though we're there and we're always enough, it's how we see it, and you are what you believe yourself to be. The shame piece is really close to home, I think, just because it's taken me years and years to undo so much of the damage. And I hate that these triggers are all about the church right now and where I'm coming from. But the truth is, like, I think being gay, growing up in a system that said I was shameful and sinful by nature, these natural feelings I had since I was young were demonic or evil or broken, in essence, like severely broken, not like the rest. When I began to internalize that is when I really started to have that soul fracture, when I started thinking that maybe I am broken, maybe there is no hope for me. And that's where you get these kids and people that, commit suicide. And that's the root of it. It's this feeling of brokenness and disconnectedness from the other, but from source as well, which it's all a lie. It's all an illusion. But if we don't deal with these things, if we don't become aware of these shameful triggers, and not just the trigger, but these ideas and perceptions of ourselves, then it can take us to really destructive places. So if you have any of these feelings, definitely reach out, seek out help, like talk to people. I mean, leave me a comment. I would love to talk. It's a very intense journey, but it's in realizing that it isn't true. Like, you are enough. You are more than enough. Even though you may not feel that way, the truth remains the same. You exist for a reason, for a multitude of reasons. It's all connected. And once you start stepping into that beauty, into that truth of who you are and the validity of your existence, and that's not just for people who are gay. I'm talking for people who don't feel like they're showing up enough for their families, or, in their work, or just as a person, like they don't have anything to contribute to the world. There is so much more than meets the eye to all of us. Some of us, you got to dig a little deeper. I'll give you that. But this is definitely something to explore. And I really recommend talking to someone if you need to about these kind of issues. If you identify with any of this, or any of this resonates with the shame or the guilt piece, definitely seek out some material, like some education material, some self-help books. There's a ton. I got a list I can put down for you that I really recommend, but it's got to be an internal job at the end of the day. Like, you have to do the work to get yourself into a mindset and a perspective where you actually see your true value, your true worth, and how amazing and beautiful you actually are. It's work, though. It's a lot of work, but your mindset, your thought processes can change, and it does get better. And it does get better because once you start seeing yourself as you are, power. It's just power. It's liberation. So I want to encourage you on that. Let's talk a little about embarrassment, though. Well, let's see what she says. So in this, she says, embarrassment is what we feel when we know that we did not behave in a way that we are proud of. Other people can never make us feel as embarrassed as we make ourselves. A true story. When you are truly and completely confident that you are doing the best that you can with what you have in front of you, you stop feeling embarrassed all the time. Embarrassment will always be there, I think, in a lot of different levels, depends on the level of embarrassment. But I think there is a core truth in this idea of accepting that we are imperfect allows us to do the best that we can with where we are at. And that may vary one day to another. And that may vary hour to hour. There's so many things going on in our life at any given moment, so many pressures. I always think about, they say in a relationship, it's never completely 50-50 with a partner, right? Some days you're coming in at 30, they're going to have to compensate and come in at 70, and vice versa. But the truth is, we're always in flux. We're always changing, our moods, our energy levels, just our bandwidth to process. There's so many things. So when you take that into account, it's a lot easier to give yourself grace. And you don't have to be embarrassed when I've done the best I can. It is what it is. Like, I've showed up. I am proud that I've shown up in the first place. You're welcome. You know what I mean? So I love that idea of that's a reclamation of power right there out the gate. If you know that you're showing up, doing the best you can with where you're at, which is different from day to day, then you're doing more than enough. That is what's available to you, whether people get that or not. It is what it is, So embrace that. That might be a message for someone today. Just if that's how you're showing up today, lean into it. That is where you're at. That is fine. That is fine. I love it. Others can make you feel bad with their comments and ideas, but even with the worst judgments, they tend to be neutralized when we accept ourselves and feel proud of who we are and where we're at. Shame is the shadow side of embarrassment. Again, I think growing up in the church in my family of origin, where shame was used as a weapon to manipulate me and my sister emotionally, my parents used it on each other. And that's obviously learned behaviors that they grew up with or they've taken on, and so they just kept passing it on. But for me, how a lot of the shame from the church showed up in terms of how I internalized it was in a lot of black and white thinking. Like, the world was either good or bad. My behavior was good or bad. It was this weird, intensely strict moral dichotomy. Like, I performed well or I didn't. There was no gray. And we all know the world is nothing but gray. For me, though, in the terms of my thinking, where it became very destructive in my life, the self-sabotaging behavior, was when I could not see that gray area, when I could not show up as the best I was in that moment, where I could not give myself grace and be kind to myself, even though I was doing amazing, because I didn't meet the goal or this unattainable standard or what I had projected or expected of myself, which caused a cycle of shame and guilt to start, or perpetuated it rather. Yeah, we'll talk about black and white thinking a little more. There's a lot there on that, but be mindful of, you deserve grace. You are doing more than enough. You are usually way more than enough. One thing my sister told me, I was so worried I wasn't producing enough. I wasn't making enough content. I wasn't doing this and that. And I was having a really rough week. I said, I just feel really lazy. Like, I have ADHD, and a lot of that comes with a lot of different behaviors and issues. And one of the big ones for me that I struggle with is task avoidance. I can have 40 things to do, but I just get so overwhelmed, I'll avoid them until I absolutely have to. And then usually it's under the gun. There's a running joke. If you want someone with ADHD to clean their house, tell them you're coming over in 5 minutes and it will be done. Like, they'll have it done as soon as you get there, you know? They'll do it, 10 minutes before you get there. It's just the way it works. And so for me, I would avoid these tasks, and I would get down on myself, and I would feel bad about myself. And my sister finally said, babe, you're not lazy when you're worried about the work you're avoiding. When you're worried, like, a lazy person just chills and releases into it, and they avoid everything. They just don't care because they're being lazy. But when I am constantly anxious about what I'm not doing and the stress that's being caused by not, do you see my hands already? Like, it's like, that's when I knew, like, there's something more to this. It's a neurodivergent thing rather than I'm a lazy piece of shit. You know what I mean? So I was able through that to give myself grace for that mode of thinking in myself. Oh, anyway, this is all over the place, but thank God for the magic of editing. So last one I want to talk about tonight is jealousy. Jealousy is a really interesting trigger. It's not as heavy for me as the other two, maybe for you. I think it's a lighter trigger if you understand it and the nature of it and what it's really trying to do for you. I think it's actually a wonderful thing. Like, anger lets us know where our boundaries are. Jealousy directly lets us know what we want. And she starts out with this. She says, jealousy is a cover-up emotion, meaning it presents as anger or judgment when in reality it's sadness and self-dissatisfaction. Sit with that for a minute. It presents as anger and judgment, but in reality it's a sadness and self-dissatisfaction. Think about when, God, and this is social media culture has highlighted what brought jealousy to the forefront for sure. You see your girlfriend getting married, or you see some super hot muscled guy on, some TikTok stream. And if you are jealous or you're drawn to something, say you see someone on a great vacation somewhere, the jealousy or that that trigger, that makes you want to scroll or not like it or whatever, you know what I mean? Whatever the reaction is, the reason that's coming up is because there is an element of desire. And not that you envy them, but you so much as you want that for yourself. I want to be, in Thailand. I want to be getting married with that kind of beautiful wedding. It's telling us what our desires are. I want the body. But the truth is, the self-dissatisfaction part is, do I want to spend 6 days in the gym and only eat chicken and broccoli 4 times a week? We know what we want, but it's the anger at ourselves for not getting ourselves to that point. So jealousy, it has almost like a double head. If you want to know what you truly want out of life, look at the people who you're jealous of. You may not want exactly what they have, but the feeling that you are experiencing is anger that they are allowing themselves to pursue it while you are not. And that's exactly what I mean with the gym thing. Everyone gets annoyed with the gym posts and stuff, but you know what? Fuck it. They're going to the gym. Let them post as much as they want. They're doing the work. It may be vain. It may be shallow. It may be just motivating them to go back to the gym tomorrow. You don't know. It's not about you. It says more about you and what you're projecting than it does about them ever. And yes, there is an element of ego that comes along with social media and like the peacocking and preening and like the shirtless pictures of, you know, people chopping wood. God, I love those videos. I love those videos so much. I give them all my money, ain't nobody selling.
Darling, do you fancy having some relations this evening by any chance, or like now?
I just love the chopping wood guy, shirtless chopping wood guy. Anyway, tangent. So I support that. Boobs. I love boobs. Anyone? Boobs, more boobs. Let them be. Let them do their thing. But yeah, jealousy lets us know what we want, whether that be to be that shirtless guy or to have the shirtless guy. I don't know. So when we use jealousy to judge other people's accomplishments, we're sliding into the shadow side of what jealousy is, this anger. When we are using our jealousy to show us what we would like to accomplish, we begin to recognize that self-sabotaging behavior and get ready to commit to what we actually desire. You can think of it this way. When we see someone who has something we really want, but we are suppressing our willingness to pursue it, we must also condemn it in them so we can justify our own course of action. I think that says it all. How many times do you get together with friends or girlfriends, especially with the gays, like we judge this, judge that, so judgy. But the truth is, if we are not willing to pursue it or to apply, or what does it say about ourselves when we are judging others? That's the heart of it. When people are judging others, it always speaks about them more than it does the person that's being judged. It's telling you where you're coming from. You got to look at yourself. And that's not easy. It's easy to judge, but it's so hard to look at yourself and to be honest with what you want and who you really are. And if you're willing to do that, work to get what you want, you know? Curious. I want to know what you guys think. What do you get jealous of? What are things that, be honest, be candid with me. When you are scrolling online, when you are at work and you're hearing people talk in the background, what are things that make you get jealous? What triggers you to kind of wince and turn green for a minute? What do you want that other people have, but maybe you're not willing to work for yet? Or maybe that you just don't know how? What are some things that get you going? I'm curious. Let me know what triggers you. Guilt, shame, if you want to go there, I would love to hear it. I think it's powerful. The more you talk about things and bring it to the light, the less power they have over us. So this is your space. This is your forum. Come be with me. Come talk with me and let me know. Guilt, shame, or embarrassment, and jealousy. What do you want? What do you get jealous of with others? Leave a comment. Subscribe. I would love to talk to you guys. I have the Garden of Dayvinity up and running, which is on Discord. It is the server where I got all things divinity and all these casts and the trauma twins and yeah, you name it, it's going to be there. So come and check it out. I'd love to hear from you. Let's start connecting. I hope you guys have a great day. Next time, we're going to talk about resentment and chronic fear. So, yay. I'll see you soon. Bye, guys.